I think I spent much of my life speaking at the unscheduled restroom breaks, but that's the way things go. I think there's a slide they have to put up for me. We'll see. There it is. Jay mentioned this morning that early on the project wanted to solicit support from the military community. A couple of months ago, he and his staff put together a pledge. That's what's posted. And then attach it to a website so that individuals could go and essentially pledge their support to the concept. And we decided that to start with kind of senior retired military as the first entry point, and we included retired flag officers, generals and admirals, and retired senior non-commissioned officers, command sergeant majors, sergeant majors. I had a number of people work this in the Army. Patty Shinzeki and Guy Swan, retired lieutenant general, ran it inside the Army. Paul Schaefer, who's here, retired Air Force general, worked inside the Air Force, and Ann Rundell, is a retired Navy three-star, worked inside the Navy, and received, in a very short period of time, just over a couple of months, hugely positive response. I got about 200 retired flag officers from 1-star to 4-star supported the concept, and over 60 retired senior non-commissioned officers supported the concept. And when they clicked on the pledge, what they agreed to is kind of what's listed here. But basically, they said they agree with the concept that national service is important for the country, that every individual, every young American ought to have the opportunity and expectation to serve. And probably most importantly, they agreed to the idea that there are numerous ways to serve the country, from service in the military to the State Department to being a firefighter, to Peace Corps, to Teach for America, to the one-year service year proposed by the Franklin Project. And it is all part of a continuum of service and two sides to the same coin as mentioned last night. In addition to approaching the senior retired community, we also went out to some of the veteran service organizations and military service organizations, and again received pretty positive response. I'd like to read the organizations that signed the pledge, and also some of the representatives are here. So if I read your name, you could please stand up so we can recognize you. We'll start with the Air Force Association. I mentioned Major General retired Paul Schaefer. Paul, Snoopy. He worked inside the Air Force and across the larger joint flag community. Thank you. American Legion Auxiliary and Bob Reeg, W. Buckler, and Janet Jefford. Thank you again for your support. Association United States Army, both Guy Swan and General Gordon Sullivan supported this, immediately ran with it, and unfortunately cannot attend today. Coda Support Foundation, Shane Cook, Stephanie Hinton, Christina Kaufman, Major General Alan Salisbury, and Jamie Stacy. Thank you again for your support. Got Your Six and Chris Marvin, he was up here earlier just in the last panel. Military Child Education Coalition, Command Sergeant Major Michael Gravens, Mary Keller. Student Veterans of America, Rodrigo Garcia. And Mission Continues, Spencer Kimpton and Colonel John Tinn. And Team White and Blue, Major Mike Irwin. Again, we thank the organizations that early in this process supported and signed the pledge. Over the next few months, we're going to expand this and go to the larger, broader retired community, and then go to family members and to active duty members. And we also, at some point, will formally approach the Department of Defense and see where can we collaborate in areas such as individual departs of service, either retires or their term enlistment is up. How do we educate them and potentially bring them into one of these positions or into the process? And also, do we use infrastructure in DOD, as mentioned earlier, do you try to tie this to the recruiting centers as an option as people come in as a central point to essentially get information? On a personal note, I retired from the Army summer 2012, and I've had an opportunity the last year and a half or so to travel through all the regions in the U.S. on a project related to public education. And like most of the military here, I've been out of the U.S. much of the last 15 years, and it's been fascinating to reconnect with the country, and especially with the non-governmental, non-military side of the United States. And in the process, I've learned a great deal about the U.S. that I didn't realize before. On the one hand, we have incredible advantages and capabilities that no other nation has. We have an incredibly resilient population. And I think if you look at the population that's in their mid-20s and younger, they're different, in many cases more engaging and more likely to be interested in something like this than, say, people my age. And I think we saw that in the number of young men and women that volunteered for multiple tours in Iraq and Afghanistan. On the other hand, we face huge challenges, and we're deeply divided and polarized. And in many ways, it seems, going from place to place, it almost seems as though we've lost a sense of a common future. 2 years ago, when Stan first recommended this project, my first thought, this is a great idea. Having traveled now for a year and a half through much of the country, I've concluded it's an essential idea. There's nothing else out there I'm aware of on the horizon, no other initiative that has the potential to generate a common experience for an entire generation of Americans, experience of service. There's no other initiative I'm aware of out there that has the potential to generate the belief that we have a common future, and that we all have a stake in that future, and that even though we have very differing views on different areas, at some point you have to all row together if you want to make progress in certain areas. Probably most significantly, there is no other effort I'm aware of that has the potential to redefine citizenship in the 21st century and instill the belief or refocus our views on what our responsibilities to our community and to our country are. As I mentioned earlier, we're going to open this up to the larger military community now in the next few months, and hopefully at an event like this next year, we'll have a much larger number that goes across the service, active duty, retired, and family members. And those of us involved certainly look forward to working with this group as this effort moves forward. Thank you.